Welcome back to the Act 2 podcast, a podcast for the real-life working screenwriter. I'm Tasha.
And I am Josh Hallman.
And we are Act 2, a network and support group for the everyday working screenwriter. That's you. This podcast is just one of the things we do. Thank you for joining us here. We recently just did a movie night and a Q&A over Zoom. Q&A makes it sound more boring than it really is. We all go see a movie, not together. You can if you want, if you're in the same town and you know other Act 2 people on Patreon. It is for our Patreon members, our subscribers. And we all go see the same movie, and we announce that movie at the top of the month. And then we meet together at a Zoom for about an hour, and we just talk about, as writers, what did we learn from the movie? What did we like about the movie? What did we not like about the movie? And really, like, the way the writer bit comes in, rather than us just dishing on a movie for an hour, is why didn't you like it? Or why did you like it? What about the writing or the production of the movie made you feel this way? And it just makes you think about the movies that you see a little more deeply, kind of like you do in a film school. If you haven't been to film school, then this is a great opportunity to feel like you are in film school, because this is everything that you do in film school.
It's better than film school.
It's more fun.
Yeah.
So that's something that you can do if you subscribe to our podcast, to our Patreon. It's early, guys. It's even not that early. I just didn't get much sleep.
I can't wait to make this comment. You know, when you said right before recording, you were like, I got up so early for this. And I was like, well, it's not that early. I was thinking, but then I just remembered you messaged me at like 1 a.m. I woke up. I was like, why? What was I was going to message you. Why were you awake? What are you doing?
Guys, I was working on my D&D campaign. The only time I can work on it is after hours.
Wow. What a night you had.
I am a party animal.
You went from writer's group to making pasta.
Dude, I made pasta from scratch. June Fun Month, man. Gonna fucking go hard or not at all. Sleep in July.
Yeah.
Anyways, you can also subscribe to the podcast, give us a rating, write a comment, DM us with questions or topic suggestions. You guys don't give us enough topic suggestions, really. You gotta have things you want us to talk about or that you want to talk about.
Hey, it's on you, listener.
Yeah. We're running out of ideas here, guys.
This is going to be a great episode.
You can reach out to us to do any of those things at ActTwoWriters@gmail.com, all spelled out, or on our Instagram and Twitter at ActTwoWriters. I'm Story Thursday on Instagram, Tasha 3.0 on Twitter.
I'm Joshua Hallman on Twitter, Josh Hallman on Instagram. Let's go.
All right. Let's just jump into This Week in Writing.
Let's do it.
This Week in Writing.
We have the same one, which is the conversation we had with Trent Johnson, our fellow writers group writer. And Trent definitely listens to the podcast. So he's definitely listening to this now. So shout out to Trent, who's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
We were talking about Shay Hatton's script for Ballerina. We had seen Ballerina as our movie of the week for our Patreon subscribers. And we were talking about how Josh and I started rereading Shay's script and how heavy it is with voice. And if you ever read it, and you should, it's one of those scripts where it breaks the fourth wall. The voice jumps off the page at you. He's talking directly to the reader. He's making quippy remarks about our world, in like TV shows in our world, as like jokes not in the dialogue, but in the action description. So, only for those reading it. And it's bonkers. And then Josh and I were having identity crises about, do we have enough voice in our script? Do we need to have more? Are we losing our voice? Is our writing boring now? Because now I'm in a crisis because my manager said my stuff was boring. And we were just talking to Trent about it. And he made an interesting comment that I think both of us were like, yeah, oh, that's exactly what voice does, which is it's a pacing thing. Voice is a pacing thing. It gives the reader, aka the studio executive or the producer who will pay you to either buy this or develop this, it gives them a sense of pace of how to read the script in the way that you want them to read it. So they will pause, they will go quickly, they will laugh at different things depending on your voice, and it will set a tone and it will set the pacing. And when he said set the pacing, I thought that was super interesting, because the reason that came up was Josh and I were like, at what point in the script do you think about voice? Do you just write the script and then come back and do voice later? Do you really try to hone in on the voice as soon as you start writing, because that's so key? And then he's like, that's about pacing, so you do it after. And he's absolutely right.
Yeah, it was a good point because, and I think this sort of came up, I had submitted a script to you guys. You gave me notes and you brought up a comment about voice. And this is what you read was a first draft. It wasn't even complete. I mean, it was the first 40 pages. I just wanted to get a gut check of where I was in the script, all the things.
It's so good, you guys.
Well, so I just wanted to get a gut check of where we were in the script. And thank you, by the way. And for me, it's weird because in this specific script, I was just trying to get my pages done. So it like almost was missing voice, or it is missing voice, where it's kind of like they go from here to here, and it's almost like what I always think of the first draft when you're writing a spec is it's a outline to a certain extent.
It's like a blueprint.
It's a blueprint. I already know even though I have an outline, I know I'm going to go back into this and I'm going to just start tinkering again, and I just need to get it into the page, or on the page, into final draft, so it's there, and I'm like, there's pages and there's a draft, and here we are.
Now I can finally start working on it.
Yes.
Once it's in final draft. Yeah, I feel the same way, and I'm writing a couple things now where the voice isn't there, and it's really upsetting me because it's making me feel like a bad writer. But exactly to your point is, I know I just need to figure out the story, just figure out how the scene works, how it functions, what the dialogue is going to be in this scene, what the emotions are going to be. And then I can go back and basically like add the window dressing, which is the voice. And in that phase, I'm going to be trimming a lot because, again, it's about pacing, and he's so right. Because when I get to that phase of adding voice and adding more, I don't know, Tasha to the way things are described and the way things move, I am changing the pace. I'm cutting dialogue. I'm cutting out of scenes in an interesting way. But that sort of doesn't really come until much later, unless there's something just like so genius that you come up with in the first pass. But
sure.
Yeah.
But I will say I've been in the position where I've just written something with voice, and I've just bleeding on the page of exactly how I feel. And some of those things have stuck through from draft to draft to draft, because it's like, oh yeah, this is what I want it to be. This is like that's how this scene should make you feel. It has my voice. I'm good. Lately, I've just been trying to get things down on
out
the page.
Yeah. Yeah. And something interesting that came up in reading your script last night was how I didn't like fully realize how key voice is in like making the reader understand how characters should feel in a scene. Because sometimes dialogue can be read one way or the other. So it really requires the writer to be like, this is how we feel about this.
Yeah.
Not in those exact terms, of course, but like, for example, if you're describing a sunset and the character hates sunsets, then you might describe it as like blinding and a blood red that makes him really uncomfortable, or that he squints at, versus a beautiful sunset might have more flowery language in your description, so that you're just cueing the reader into how to feel about it before we even get to any dialogue. And that's also voice, guys. And like that just kind of also sort of clicked for me as well, because voice is so hard to talk about. It's like porn, you know, when you see it, but you can't really describe it.
Well,
where the line is when it comes to voice.
Well, I'm going to skip over that because I have some thoughts. But I will say, I think there's a little controversy behind this, because a lot of times people will write down an exposition to almost make you feel a certain way. Oh, Tasha and Josh are scared. Their hearts are pounding. They're this, whatever it is. And it's kind of, then there's a group of individuals, some writers, who feel like you don't have to say that in the description. Let us find that out through dialogue or whatever it may be. I've heard there's different schools of thoughts behind it. And I know there is.
Yeah. And I think different scripts in different moments require different things too.
My manager, Jay-Z, not the rapper.
I feel like you were waiting to call someone out and you were debating whether or not to do it.
It's a compliment. He'll always say, give us an emotional check-in. Give me where's your emotional check-in? And so I've always thought about that. And you check in with sometimes you have to do it for the reader.
Yeah.
I'm not going to call anyone out though. Not on the Act 2 podcast.
It's not what we're about. All right, today we are doing part 2 of our live action remakes of animated movies. So today we are talking about How to Train Your Dragon. Last episode we talked about Lilo and Stitch. So if you missed that episode, go back there. How to Train Your Dragon, Josh. Successful adaptation or unsuccessful adaptation?
I think very successful. I like it's undeniable in the sense of it's successful that people are seeing it. It's made a lot of money. Tasha. Successful? Unsuccessful?
This is really telling that the next question I'd planned to ask you was, where do you think the adaptation failed? Where Lilo and Stitch succeeded? But you don't think it failed.
Okay. Here's what I felt, which is interesting about what I'm going to say is because I felt the same way about The Lion King. I'm going to just say this. I think I said this on the last episode. I love The Lion King. It is my favorite animated movie, from the 90s. And I actually loved the live action remake. What's interesting about it is the live action remake was basically a shot for shot, same dialogue of The Lion King. And I kind of didn't care. I was like, I'm in. It's been so long. I'm seeing this with my daughter. This is a great ride. How to Train Your Dragon kind of felt like the same thing, but it was so recent for some reason. Like I know this movie very well. I feel like I've watched it in the last it's not that far removed from the original. It doesn't feel like, is it?
I think so.
Oh,
I think it's pretty far.
Oh.
So 2010 is when the movie came out.
All right, but that's 15 years. But I just felt as though it didn't have the uniqueness that Lilo and Stitch did. Even those changes that might be controversial, I think could have been implemented into this movie because I just think it just felt like the same exact thing. Even the supporting characters in the movie were like spot on from the cartoon, which I understand completely. Like I get it, but it was like, maybe we can just spice it up just a little. Do you disagree? The look you're giving me.
Yeah, I feel like there should be a thought bubble above my head that says rage boiling or something.
Okay. Then I have one more thing and then I'll let you just live in your rage. At times in the movie, it just felt like these actors were in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I felt.
Mm-hmm.
This is hard for me to say because I don't want to criticize a movie, let alone a movie that's doing really well. And I want the box office and I want movies to succeed. And this isn't me criticizing it. I'm just being hypercritical as though I'm reading a script and giving notes to somebody. I feel bad saying it.
Yeah.
I'm getting hot.
Yeah. I'm regretting this sweater I'm wearing. Okay, listen. I love How to Train Your Dragon. One of my favorite franchises of all time. Yeah. I've seen all the movies. First one's the best. Rest don't need to exist. But I've watched the show also several dozen times.
The show?
I'm due for... Yeah, Josh.
You've watched it several dozen times?
Yes. Because I will watch it and then just go back to the first episode. And then watch it and just... it sits in the background and I'm doing things, but I've watched it many, many times. I have a Toothless and Hiccup tattoo flying above my Hogwarts tattoo. I love How to Train Your Dragon. And to your point, I do not want to shit on movies that anyone is involved in. It is always a feat to get anything made. It is a lifetime achievement. Who the fuck am I to say anything? So when I approach this with rage, I approach it as a fan, not as someone who works in this industry and really appreciates everything that they achieved in this movie. So it's beautiful. It's a beautiful movie. But Josh, this movie.
Oh, boy.
My biggest issue is, yes, it does not have a reason for being. The live action medium gives you different tools than animation does, namely the ability for what's on screen to feel real. Nobody felt real. But the effects feel more real, right? Like fire fire now feels more real because it's not animated. It's fire. It's real fire on set. And we react to it physically and viscerally when we watch that. Dragons have a lot of fire, so that's great. Atmosphere and lighting can create really true-to-life environments that also at the same time create mood. But it was my feeling that this live action didn't have a point of view on any of that. And I think without a point of view, it was just a shot-for-shot remake, which is not a reason to do an adaptation.
I'm just trying to think of this is where art meets commerce type idea, right? Like, do you think it wasn't different because the IP exists in the world? There's rides for this movie at, I think, Universal maybe being built, or it's already there, or whatever it may be. Like, do you think it has to exist within this IP world and it can't be changed too much? Because if it changes...
No.
Okay.
Because I'm not asking for even big changes, because I don't think it needs it. I think the story is a perfect story, and the arcs are great. The themes are really great. What I'm missing is why it's live action. And that, to me, like, is twofold. The biggest issues are twofold. The first is like atmosphere and realism now that we're in a live action world. I think you can shoot it in a way that makes me feel like, holy shit, we could not have done this in the animation, especially in like a kid's animation. Like, obviously this is still a kid's movie, but you can push the boundaries a little bit more in live action in terms of mood that you're setting than you kind of can in animated movies, because parents are parents. But an example might be when Stoic, who is Gerard Butler, the dad character of Hiccup, when he's mad at his son Hiccup in a dark Viking house at night during the rain, you can mood the fuck out of that shot. You can shoot it in a way where you're making me feel Stoic's anger, and this feels real and visceral now because now you have these live action tools in your tool chest. And if dragons are attacking your village, give me shots that make me feel how terrifying and awful that is without scaring kids, because you know you got to have kids in the audience, but you can still do that in a way that's not a shot-for-shot remake, because when you do a shot-for-shot remake of that animated movie in particular, and there are more, I would say, like artistic animated movies that are cinematic animated movies that have this already built in, but that's not How to Train Your Dragon, and that's okay. That's what it was. It was a kid's movie.
I have a heavy question for you.
Yeah.
You're kind of touching on this. So if you were taking over this movie, what would you have done differently?
I would just have shot it differently. And then the second piece would be some of the acting choices / dialogue choices with mostly the comic relief would be different.
Okay.
But the script, for the most part, I think totally works fine in live action. But a lot of it felt cartoony. And I think the acting choices, to your point, they felt like they were in a movie. And I think it's because they're trying to be like the animated movie. It's almost like the direction was, say this the way Hiccup did. Oh, you don't remember? Here, watch this scene with Hiccup from the original. Okay, now do that. And that just doesn't translate. As someone who has worked in animation, when you record actors for animation, you tell them to like be more dramatic, be bigger here. I know it sounds weird to do that, especially when you're talking to live action actors that are like, that sounds really over dramatic. You're like, I know, but it's going to work in animation, trust me. And it does. Mm-hmm. Because animation, they don't have the ability to do, I feel like, minus like Arcane, and like that level of really extreme detail in like 3D. They don't have the ability to do like micro expressions the way that humans do in real life. So we as humans will register. Josh, I could watch you right now and like register very tiny things in your face that's giving me cues about how you're feeling in a certain moment. And you can't really do that in animation, which means
what are you trying to say, Tasha?
The actor has to produce that with their voice a lot more. But when you have someone doing that in live action, it just reads as over the top, which is why you felt like they were in a movie. So those to me are like my two biggest criticisms. And they're really like, they're kind of small. Like, again, like I think the movie functions perfectly fine. It just didn't need to exist, which is what pisses me off.
Yeah, you brought up a good point in the sense of these. It did seem like they like watched the animated film and they were like, let's just do that. and with like the actors and even like the Hiccup. I was like, man, could Hiccup be like a little different?
Yeah.
Maybe just slightly. That the guy's a good actor. I know that from like I've seen things, the clips of other things. I think
Yeah, like let him own that character.
just let him do his thing.
Yeah.
Like let him be unique and different, and just do something a little different than just what we were watching with the animated film.
Yeah.
It was actually pretty crazy how 1-to-1 it was.
Yeah. I'm curious how you feel as well because you're a father. But there's
Go on.
also this theme of father and sons in both How to Train Your Dragons, obviously, that works in the animated movie and TV shows because it's an animated movie. So you sort of you allow for things that aren't usually funny to be funny because it's animated. So like for example, the fact that Snotlout, who is like the annoying kid in the friend group, like his father does not like him. His father doesn't acknowledge him, even actively tells his son not to look at him or speak to him. And Snotlout is actively in the course of the movie trying to earn his father's approval and failing to do so until he does something so heroic as to kill like the biggest dragon they've ever seen.
Right.
And only then is his father willing to accept him. And same really with the Gerard Butler character. But in watching the animated, you're like, that's not a lesson we want to teach kids.
Yeah.
That you're only accepted by your parent if you defeat a massive dragon, but everything else you do is absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
And that landed more in live action because those things we expect to be more real and more grounded and not funny. And I do feel like that's a place where they could have maybe tweaked it a bit to just add more nuance to it because now it's live action.
I agree. There's a lot of nuance that was missing.
Yeah.
As I was watching, I was like, maybe it's because all these people are acting with fake animals and all these different things, and maybe it's hard to act that way. It's like Anakin Skywalker in the original the Star Wars movies. You know, Hayden Christensen, he was like acting to a green screen the entire time, and everyone was getting on his ass because they're like, he's a bad actor, but he was actually because who could act to a broomstick? So I don't know.
They
man.
had puppets. Like I've seen actors act the fuck out of things with nothing in the room with them.
That's true. I mean, I'm just trying to find a silver lining. I just feel like with an adaptation and then going into what we talked about with Lilo and Stitch last week, there has to be just a unique twist, your own thumbprint on the property, on the idea, on the movie, something that just makes it somewhat different, just to make it feel the same but a little different.
Yeah.
That's all. It's like the Jurassic World movies. They're all the same.
They're all the same.
They're just different. They're monster movies.
Yeah. And I want to emphasize this idea of point of view because that's another great example. Like I can't wait for this new one because it's going to have its own point of view. And what I mean by point of view is not like, here is my thesis of the movie. It's like when you enter a scene, and you do this as a writer and you definitely do this as a director. When you enter any scene, you have to ask yourself, what is this scene really about? The dialogue might be about the weather, but the scene is about how a father never believes his son, no matter how much he tries to tell the truth. And you have to shoot it in a way that emphasizes that point of view. And when you see a live action movie that doesn't have a point of view like that, it sticks out more than an animated movie, which you watch a little bit more passively, especially that style of animated movie. And I think as a fan of this, I just wanted the live action to plus things in such an extreme way. And the fact that I was just given the animated movie with real people was really upsetting.
You wanted a special take on it.
Yes, I just wanted it to be this cool. I want it to feel real so that I could feel like I could go ride a dragon. And I don't feel like I felt that way after this movie. I want to say one more thing and then we can wrap up, which is comedy in both animation and live action also lands differently. And I think the comedy of, for example, the twins in the animated movie works fantastic. I think the skinny blonde twin and then the like shorter blonde sister twin They're so funny and they offer like such comic relief and like literally relief from the drama of Hiccup and Astrid and Dad. And then they actually gave them the same lines in the animated or the live action. And you're like, what? Why?
That's what I didn't understand. It was the same exact thing. It was like a 1-for-1 of all of this when it didn't have to be.
No. The Pleakley and Jumba characters from Lilo and Stitch are a really good example of how they knew that comedy could not translate. And so they rewrote them entirely. And the spirit of who they were absolutely still there. We never felt like, oh, that's not Jumba and Pleakley. We were like, oh my God, those are like better versions of Jumba and Pleakley. That's absolutely how it must have felt if this was a live action thing. But they never did that with the other, like the comic relief of this movie. And that was also something that, as a writer, I feel like should have been looked at.
Yeah, I'm trying to be constructive. Like I'm kind of like gazing off right now because I don't want to just knock on this movie, which is crushing it right now. I just felt like it could have been a little more unique. That's all.
Yeah. I have positives. Look, the dragons looked super cool. They actually used real life puppets, mostly to help the kids act with them. But they also looked really cool. And they looked exactly like the animated, which is it is cool to see that translation. It's beautiful. It's not shot on a set. They made a huge deal about going to Ireland to shoot this on location, and I think that really comes through. I just sort of wish I wish it was shot differently still, but
Okay, but if the goal is to make money, they did it.
yeah, but they could have done it with integrity, or they could have even done it better. I mean, Lilo and Stitch blew Mission Impossible out of the water. Like, what could this movie have done if it had just pushed that limit? And I'm just asking for like 10% more. Really?
No, same.
That's what I'm missing.
Yeah. Can I close this with one sad anecdote?
Oh, so I don't know if we should end on a sad note, but okay.
It's an uplifting yet sad note.
Okay.
When I was watching this movie, if you recall, I have an ear injury.
Yeah.
I had to leave my seat and watch it from like the side entrance, like the final moments, because it was getting too loud for my ear. This might be my new normal.
No.
I just bought these earplugs that are called loops that basically can let you adjust things, and they're like very hidden in your ear. I might be a guy who has to put a hearing thing in my left ear for loud sounds.
Forever?
No, for the next 6 months.
That's not bad.
No, it's not bad, but it is summer movie season.
That's true.
Yeah. Just give me 2026.
Yeah, this year sucks. It's a real bad year.
Anyway.
I'm sorry. I have nothing uplifting to offer.
Maybe that's why I'm giving the critiques I'm giving, is because I was just angry about my ear.
Well, also, the mix is a little funky on this movie.
Oh, is it? So it's not just my ear.
It's no. This was the first time I've ever seen a movie and was like, oh, movies are mixed. like you could oh, that was a choice someone made and it was the wrong choice.
Big fan of post-production, Tasha.
Oh yeah.
I'm here for it.
Am I because I'm like in mix?
I know.
In mixes now, and I'm just like, I'm so overly critical of it. But also, yeah, the mix is a little funky. Please go see these movies, guys. I'm so curious what your opinions are, and maybe we're wrong. Maybe live action How to Train Your Dragon is the greatest adaptation that ever happened, and Lilo and Stitch sucks, though I don't think that's true. But tell us your feedback. How did you feel about the movie? If you're interested in adaptation, watch them with that in mind, because you will be asked to adapt cartoons, anime, I don't know, webtoons, stuff that kind of already exists is a big part of our business. And how these two writers approached that job differently, I think, is a really good lesson as a writer. So watch those movies. Let us know what you think. And again, you can email us at ActTwoWriters@gmail.com or on our Instagram and Twitter at ActTwoWriters. Quote of the day: to produce a mighty book, you must choose a mighty theme. Herman Melville. Please remember to rate and subscribe. Follow us at ActTwoWriters for more awesome writing stuff. You can follow me, Tasha, at Story Thursday on Instagram or on Twitter at Tasha 3.0.
I'm Joshua Hallman on Twitter, Josh Hallman on Instagram.
And as always, the Act Two podcast is a production of Act Two Network and support group for the everyday working screenwriter. This episode was edited by Paul Lundquist.